Ever watched a martial arts movie and wondered where it all came from? From Bruce Lee's one-inch punch, Master Shifu, and Kung Fu Panda's chopstick battle, or Ip Man's top on the table fist fights. It has to be a whole different way of life, right? It is. Shaolin temples are the curators of this ancient martial arts which came from India nearly 1500 years ago. The story starts with Bodhidharma, a 23 years old prince of Brahmin Pallav dynasty of Kanchipuram. According to legends, he awakened his Kundalini and subsequently denounced the throne, becoming a full-time monk of Mahayana Buddhist lineage. After which his guru Prajnatantra ordered him to travel northwards to a region where the message of Bodhisattva is still to be spread. He did as told by his guru. Travels began. He started moving northwards in search of lands which needed some awakening. From Tamilkam to Kalinga, from Vindhya mountains to the Himalayas, he traveled and finally settled in some place in eastern Tibet bordering China. According to the tales, it's sometime in the early 6th century. On the other side, the Emperor Wu of Liang Kingdom, a great patron of Buddhism and a desperate emperor who had designed great monasteries and temples and gardens, is told by some counselor of his kingdom that an awakened monk walking in Buddha's footsteps is near our lands. The excited emperor immediately sent envoys to find him. After many expeditions, a man sitting and meditating days on end in tough Tibetan terrains covered in snow was found. A heavily bearded Indian man with unwavering meditation and unshaken resolve is identified as the awakened monk. The king comes to the border to welcome Bodhidharma in a royal passion. Great banners and garlands and carpets and trumpets came for his welcome, but Bodhidharma, unimpressed by the royal welcome, stood calmly. Upon meeting with Bodhidharma, the aging Emperor Wu immediately asked questions relating to nirvana. He asked, "I have done everything in my capacity to spread Buddha's message. I have built temples, monasteries, gardens, and everything monks could ever need. Will I get nirvana?" To this, Bodhidharma replied, "None. Good deeds done with worldly intent bring good karma but no merit." Emperor Wu asks, "So what is the highest meaning of noble truth?" Bodhidharma replies, "There is no noble truth. There is only emptiness." Emperor Wu asks, "Then who is standing before me?" Bodhidharma replies, "I know not, your majesty." He went to the caves to meditate, where a Chinese Buddhist monk named Shegwang followed him and stood outside his caves for days. Finally, after weeks looking at this man's reluctance to have a conversation, Bodhidharma asked him, why was he there? Shegwang replied that he wanted a teacher to open the gate of the elixir of universal compassion to liberate all beings. Bodhidharma refused, saying, "How can you hope for true religion with little virtue, little wisdom, a shallow heart, and an arrogant mind? It would be just a waste of effort." Further, Bodhidharma says, "The only way I can teach you is if the ice around here turns red." Finally, to prove his resolve, Shegwang cut off his left arm and presented it to Bodhidharma as a token of his sincerity. Looking at Shegwang's devotion, Bodhidharma then accepted him as a student and changed his name from Shegwang to Huik, which means wisdom and capacity. After being taught by Bodhidharma, he became a great Shaolin monk, famously known as Tazu Huik in Chinese tradition. His single-handed namaste is one famous Shaolin signature greeting still in practice. Over the years, Shaolin temples accepted Bodhidharma as the enlightened one and were waiting for his teachings. According to some sources, he was so disturbed by the poor physical condition of Chinese monks that he went on a rage. When he tried to teach yogic practices and dhyana to his disciples, they couldn't do it. They were simply not resilient enough. Looking at this, Bodhidharma started teaching the students derivatives of Kalaripayat. Kalari was an ancient Indian martial arts, which according to the legends was spread by Maharishi Agastya somewhere in South India thousands of years ago. Agastya Muni had devised this martial arts to strengthen yogis and sannyasis to be able to survive the wilderness and wild animals. Since India always had thick luscious forests across and tigers and wolves were looming in all corners of the nation, it became an absolute necessity. A self-defense technique to survive and thrive in the wild without hurting the animals was needed. The technique of Kalari were to imitate and learn from the movements of wild animals, to move in such swift ways so you can defeat the predators without actually hurting them. Bodhidharma started teaching those moves to the monk, which was later enshrined in Chinese Shaolin culture. To this day, Bodhidharma is worshipped as a godlike being in Shaolin culture. Those techniques are known as 18 Arhant hands, which are still in practice today. Bodhidharma taught Dhyana, which gradually converted into Chan in Chinese, and later, when those teachings were taken up by the Japanese, they turned to Zen. From Dhyan to Chan to Zen, it's fun to see words change across nations but retain their original meaning. According to legends, once Bodhidharma's eyes closed while meditating. He went furious and cut off his eyelids, making sure that his eyes never close while doing dhyan ever again. Quite extreme, isn't it? Other legends have it that Bodhidharma meditated 9 years constantly into a wall. Some exaggerated accounts say his meditation was so unwavering and unhindered during the 9 years that an image identical to him could be seen on the wall years after he stood up from dhyana. Another source says he was so still over the years that his arms and feet nearly fused with his torso, giving birth to the famous Daruma dolls in Japan. Daruma dolls are pretty common across Japanese culture, and I'm certain you must have seen one either in the famous game show Takeshi's Castle or in some other Japanese piece of art. This tells us the birth and origin of wall-gazing dhyana in Mahayana Buddhism. According to Dao Zhuan, another disciple of Bodhidharma's lineage, mentions in his works and tells those who turn from delusion back to reality, who meditate on walls, the absence of self, and other, the oneness of mortal and sage, and who remain unmoved even by scriptures, are in complete and unspoken agreement with reason. He further states the merits of Mahayana wall gazing are the highest. Once the preaching and practices were infused amongst the Chinese culture, Bodhidharma considered his job done and desired to leave back for India. He was said to be around 150 years of age at that time. Jingde records of the transmission of the lamp of Dao Yuan presented to the emperor in year 1004 tells, Bodhidharma asked, "Can each of you say something to demonstrate your understanding?" Dao Fu stepped forward and said, "It is not bound by words and phrases, nor is it separate from words and phrases. This is the function of the Tao." Bodhidharma said, "You have attained my skin." The nun Zongqi stepped up and said, "It is like a glorious glimpse of the realm of Akshobhya Buddha, seen once, in need not be seen again." Bodhidharma said, "You have attained my flesh." Dao Yu said, "The 4 elements are all empty. The 5 skandhas are without actual existence. Not a single dharma can be grasped." Bodhidharma replied, "You have attained my bones." Finally, Huik came forth, bowed deeply in silence, and stood up straight. Bodhidharma said, "You have attained my marrow." After which he gave his symbolic robe to Tazu Huik, his disciple, who had sacrificed his arm for his guru's teachings and left, never to be seen again. Teachings of Bodhidharma are fundamental to most of the Shaolin culture and other portions of spirituality and way of life till date in Chinese culture.